Noah Lyles just raced Jaylen Brown, and the internet is convinced it was close. But here is what nobody is talking about. Noah was jogging for the first half of the race. He gave Jaylen a head start. There were no blocks and no starting gun. And he still won. So the real question is not whether Jaylen is fast. The real question is whether Noah was even trying at all. Before we get into what happened in that race, it helps to understand exactly who is involved here. Noah Lyles is not just a fast runner. He is the most decorated active sprinter in the world right now. Over his career, he has collected 15 global medals between the Olympics and the World Championships. He is an 8-time world champion. He won the 100-meter gold at the 2024 Paris Olympics by 0.005 of a second in one of the closest finishes in the history of the event. That is who he is. Jaylen Brown is not just any NBA player either. He is the reigning NBA champion and the Finals MVP. He plays for the Boston Celtics, stands at 6 feet 6 inches tall, and is widely considered one of the more athletic players in the entire league. He is big, powerful, and genuinely quick for someone his size. That part matters for what we are about to break down. The two of them ended up in the same training session recently. Jaylen was working with Noah on his sprint mechanics. He was getting advice on his start, and picking up pointers on how to move more efficiently over short distances. And by the end of that session, Jaylen had lowered his 30-meter personal best down to 3.76 seconds. That is a real time. It is not slow. But the number alone does not tell the full story of what happened when they finally lined up against each other. When the race went off, there were no starting blocks. There was no starting gun. Noah gave Jaylen a head start and then took off behind him. Those details matter more than most people realize. In the first 10 meters, Jaylen was ahead. He was digging hard, driving his knees and going full speed from the first step. Noah, on the other hand, was barely jogging. He was letting Jaylen build a lead that in a real 30-meter race between two trained sprinters would have been impossible to close. But then, Noah shifted gears. That is the only way to describe it. At around the 15 to 20 meter mark, Noah started actually running. And what happened next is the part that the internet missed completely. He closed that entire gap and won the race before they hit 30 meters. Now, people watching this online saw a race that looked close, and in a way, it was close at the finish line. But the reason it was close had nothing to do with Jaylen nearly keeping up with an elite sprinter. It was close because Noah spent the first half of the race at a completely different speed than he was capable of running. Here is something worth knowing. This is not the first time Noah has done this exact thing. A few years ago, Noah raced iShow Speed. That is the internet personality with hundreds of millions of followers and one of the more famous YouTube faces in the world right now. And in that race, Noah did the exact same thing. He dropped back in the opening steps, let Speed build a lead, and then ran him down to win. The results were almost identical. Speed looked close at certain points. The clip went viral, millions of views, and now with Jaylen Brown, the same thing happened again. Noah fell behind early. The race looked tight. Millions of people watched. Millions of people reacted. At this point, it is hard not to ask the obvious. Is Noah doing this on purpose? If you are one of the greatest sprinters alive and you consistently give non-sprinters a head start and then close them down, you are either very bad at pacing yourself in non-competitive settings, or you understand exactly what makes a video go viral. Either way, the outcome never changes. Noah wins. The clip spreads everywhere, and people walk away thinking the other person almost did something historic. But if Noah is sandbagging these races on purpose, that raises a different question entirely. How fast could he actually go if he ran a non-sprinter completely flat out from the gun? We may never know because that clip would be a lot less interesting to watch. To understand why Jaylen never really had a chance here, you need to understand what makes a trained sprinter so difficult to race. The 100 meters is one of the most technically demanding events in all of sports. It is not just about being fast. It is about starting mechanics, drive phase positioning, acceleration curves, and top-end velocity that takes years to develop properly. Most elite sprinters spend the first 2 to 3 seconds of a race in what is called the drive phase, where the body is at a forward angle and every step is about building speed rather than maintaining it. That technique alone, built through thousands of hours of repetition, is something you cannot fake in a casual training session. When DK Metcalf, one of the fastest players in the NFL, lined up for a 100-meter race back in 2021, he ran 10.36 seconds. That is genuinely impressive. Most people could not get close to that time if they trained for years. But against professional track athletes who specialize in that exact distance, 10.36 was not enough. Not even close. The trained sprinters still ran away from him. Metcalf had size, power, and elite NFL speed on his side. Jaylen Brown has size, power, and elite NBA athleticism on his side. The result over a real-time distance against a real sprinter is going to be the same every single time. Now apply that same logic to a 30-meter race between Jaylen Brown and Noah Lyles, except Noah gives Jaylen a head start and still wins. The gap between what these two athletes are capable of over that distance is significant. The race looked close because of how it was set up, not because Jaylen was operating near Noah's level. To give Jaylen full credit, his 3.76 seconds over 30 meters is a strong time. The world record for 30 meters out of the blocks is 3.73 seconds, set by Subing Tan. Jaylen was not running out of blocks, and his time was almost certainly measured without a reaction time included, which means these numbers are not directly comparable. But the fact that a 6'6" basketball player can move that quickly over a short distance is genuinely worth acknowledging. The problem is that impressive for a basketball player and competitive with an Olympic champion are two very different things. Once the clip hit, the reaction online was something else entirely. There were people genuinely arguing that Jaylen almost beat an Olympic sprinter. Some said it was a flex for the NBA. Others said it proved that professional athletes in other sports are closer to world-class sprinters than we think. A few accounts posted the clip with captions suggesting that Noah barely got the win. And here is the thing. That reaction is exactly what makes this kind of content work. The race was set up in a way where Jaylen would look competitive, and Noah would look like he was working to win. Both of those things are technically true. Jaylen was moving fast. Noah did have to accelerate to catch him. But the version of Noah that showed up for the first 10 meters of that race was not the version that runs 9.79 seconds in an Olympic final. It was a deliberately held-back version of Noah, making the race look interesting for the camera. The people saying this was close are not wrong about what they saw. They just do not realize how much faster Noah is capable of going when he actually decides to run. After the race with Noah, Jaylen Brown quickly called out "I show speed." He offered Speed a rematch with real money attached. If Speed wins, Jaylen will donate $100,000 to a foundation of Speed's choosing, or give the money directly to Speed himself. The two of them have raced before. But that race was not exactly a controlled setting. Speed was wearing a full costume under his Celtics shirt. They were running on an actual street. And when it ended, Speed acted like he had won, even though Jaylen had clearly crossed the line first. Whether Speed accepts this rematch is still unknown, but it adds a real layer to this whole situation. Jaylen Brown came into a secession with Noah Lyles, lowered his 30-meter personal best, raced one of the greatest sprinters alive, and then immediately turned around and called out one of the biggest names on the internet for a rematch with serious money on the line. So here is where this all lands. Noah Lyles ran down the NBA Finals MVP from a near-jogging start and made it look like a real race. The internet reacted exactly the way it was supposed to, and whether Noah planned that outcome or not, millions of people now have a strong opinion about how fast Jaylen Brown is compared to an Olympic sprinter. The honest answer is that Jaylen Brown is extremely fast for a basketball player, and Noah Lyles is in a completely different category altogether. He proved that while holding back for the first half of a 30-meter race with no blocks, no starting gun, and the head start going to his opponent, 15 global medals, 8 world titles, 3 Olympic medals, and he still gave away the first 10 meters and won anyway. That is what separates a trained sprinter from everyone else on Earth.